All right.
What's up?
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Aladdin DAO A Team. Coming at you with some fun community updates and, man, just talking about DeFi, what's going on in the world, and just hearing from the gang. How are you guys today?
Good, good.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, thanks for having us on. Thanks for hosting. Appreciate it.
Well, host is a very loose term.
Thanks for introducing.
There you
Listen,
go.
man, even scheduling the stream and putting up the link, man, you're the host. Admit it.
How's everybody else doing? How are you doing, sir? Kmets, you doing all right?
Yeah, man, I'm just, just living life, just trying to get through this market. I was kind of I was talking to you earlier about this, like it's I don't know about you guys, but just like it's August here in Texas, and so it's very hot, it's very oppressive. And so kind of having like this sideways market, you just kind of wake up, you're just like, oh God, like I hope everything just holds itself together for one more day, kind of a thing. It's like it's very much, we're sort of like, I feel like and maybe CryptoVestor or Tao or DeFi Advisor, you could talk to this a little bit more, but I feel like we're sort of like in like the mental, like you're like in the last miles of a marathon where it's like all completely mental, where you're having to like really just sort of fight through it and just keep talking to yourself like positive thoughts and like it's coming. One of these days it's going to be the big bull run's coming. So I don't know.
This is the mental capitulation, I think. It feels that way, at least. Based on all the other cycles I've been through, this is the part where it's boring and nobody wants to get involved and people are just ready to throw in the towel. And I think this is when, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere, this is when things start changing. I think we're close. I think we're a couple of weeks away, maybe a month or two. I think things start off in October again, just like they did last year.
Yeah.
What do you guys think? What do you think, Tao? What do you think, DeFi Advisor?
Yeah, I think I agree with you. And for me, I think this is like good timing to watching some like a documentary regarding the Bitcoin and reading a lot of Twitter thread about like historical things, right?
Yeah,
and that's good. Like if you put the timeline a little longer than just like a week, you will see the BTC or the crypto is going up. So just be patient. I lose a lot of chance. Like before, in the last couple cycle, I was in, but when it's boring, I'm leaving. So that's kind of like things. I don't want to make another mistake again. So just be patient. Then, yeah. So I think it's coming soon.
I do too. What do you think, DeFi Advisor? What do you say?
I think it's kind of natural that everything is kind of hesitant with the world being like it is and it being an election year. And like you guys say, like earlier before we started the stream, like the whole inequality or however you say that about what's going to be with the rates. And I hope you guys like talk about this as well soon. But yeah, I think it's it's cooking. I think it keeps cooking. I think what's that again?
I was going to say, here's the hopium the way I see it, right? There's so many different positive catalysts. You have the election coming up. That's usually a catalyst, regardless of who wins, it's usually a catalyst. You have lower rates on the horizon. It should happen. I mean, probably in September. And once that starts, we know it usually lasts, a good year or so. So we have that. We have, there's a lot of injection of money printed in general around the world. Money supply is going up. You're typically better in a fourth quarter. We're in a halving year. So you got a lot of positive things to look forward to. I do think that we're just in this consolidation period, and I think we're gonna start blasting off from here soon.
And listen, man, I like in a way, I really like these prices. Like for me, it's still about accumulation. I don't know about you guys, but I enjoy it. You know what I mean? Like I don't necessarily want it to happen too fast. Like for me, it's dependent for anyone, like for everyone, like at the phase that there are. And by the way, for me, it's like a very it's a very much of a circle, because I started getting involved in crypto around 4 years ago. It was basically July of 2020 when I found out about it for real. Like noticed that okay, something is going on, and around September when I actually started like buying some stuff. And shortly after September of 2020, things really started picking up.
And you just answered the question. I mean, you got involved in September of 2020.
Yeah, man. Like I thought about it because he started talking about the hopium and stuff. It's like I know what happened in September 2020. Like 4
do
years
you remember
ago,
what that was like?
There, like,
I mean, I remember the Discord channels. You couldn't even like read stuff. It was just like flying off the screen. Do you remember that? Like it was insane.
So I pulled up here the Bitcoin chart here, and what I've done is I've actually notated where all of the halvings and the tops and bottoms of Bitcoin prices are from really about 2015 or so. And it's funny, from the like the second halving, you go 248 days until the top, or I believe that's right. Yeah, 248 days, and then from the third halving, you go 258 days from the halving to the top, and then so we've had the fourth halving, and so if you go out 255, or I'm sorry, I was giving out the wrong number there. So it's
500 days, right?
Yeah, 500. Yeah. So if you go out, basically the equivalent distance here of 540 days from the fourth halving, you wind up in the middle of October of 25.
Yeah,
and
so about a year away.
Yeah, and I've done like some Fibonacci retracement stuff on like the anticipated top, and it's it's close to 200,000. So it's just we've just gotten started. I mean, we're only like what has it been like 3 months since the halving? So it'll be
and if you look at like 2020's halving, right? If you look at that one, we started moving up about 150 days in. You see that inflection point?
Yeah.
So that's kind of, I'm not saying it has to happen exactly that way, but if you look at where we are now, we've been kind of grinding sideways for about 150 days. So next couple of weeks, I'm thinking things will start to move up. And then, like you said, it could last. I kind of think it's more mid 2025, but it might extend further. It might go into November. I see how you mark the second peak. You mark the second peak of 2020 as the top. I don't really see that as the top. I see the top as really being May or April or May of 2021.
Yeah, I picked that one mainly just because it's consistent with the other cycles. Yeah,
it's certainly you're not going to get hurt by seeing it this way. I mean, you just have to.
Yeah, and I also think that that previous cycle was weird and stunted because of all the shenanigans going on with FTX and Three Arrows Capital and all these PvP games. Those guys and
we will have new stunts, no? We will have some new stunts. I mean, this time, no?
Yeah.
Well, hopefully they're all good guys this time, right?
Yeah, for hopefully. Sure. Are they liquid? Are they solvent though?
I mean, Aladdin's pretty solvent, man.
For sure.
But we know the rug pullers will always come out in the bull runs. They always do. The fraudsters. It's just it's part of the. It's part of the equation.
You have a lot of ruggers like in the bear as well these days.
There was plenty of that.
It's a very stable industry. Like the rugging industry is a very stable industry. Much more than the crypto industry in general.
Always a bull market in the rugging industry, eh?
Yeah.
Oh, we got to fix that, don't we? We got to fix that.
Yeah, I know. I really hope that
we already are in a way, like honest builders and people who are actually building stuff, especially like you guys.
I'm also under the impression that if you've made it this far, you've kind of crossed the chasm. Like the worst is over. We might have another 4 weeks of crappy down or sideways or down action, but the worst is likely behind us at this point. So if you're here, you made it. As long as you don't get chopped up in trading, you're going to be all right.
Yep. Well, there you go. I mean, that's
for sure. One thing that I learned around this first cycle, I learned a lot of stuff. But one thing for sure is that first of all, survive. You have to survive in the market, above all. Like it's cool to make money, whatever, but you have to stay in the game. Otherwise,
yeah. And this has been one of the toughest cycles. This was one of the toughest cycles, despite what anybody might say. You know, I've been here since 2014, so I've seen all of those cycles, and this has been one of the hardest ones because it's been the one that really capitulated mentally the most, from a time perspective, not from a price perspective, but from a time perspective. So,
what do you mean?
Meaning it's lasting longer. It's taking longer for things to get started. So that time just kind of wears at you. But, you know, before, I remember, you know, rebounds happening quicker in Bitcoin. So it didn't feel so bad. I mean, it felt like, you know, you always got back, you know, but now it just feels like it's just taking a lot longer. And it's a much more mature market. So, you know, it takes a lot more to move Bitcoin and other cryptos, like larger cryptos, like Ethereum.
I have a question for you, CryptoVestor, regarding that. Like, is it also in a way, in your mind, a bit more of a difficult cycle because that, like, as time goes on, participants kind of expect that, okay, this time it's really happening. This time mass adoption is really coming. And in a way, like, it actually looked like it was already happening. And then it said that, like, there were arenas called, like, you know, we had the FTX arena and the crypto.com arena also somewhere in the States. Like,
yeah, I mean, there's some of that. I mean, it felt that way, you know, but it always feels that way every cycle. It feels like you're gonna, you know, your mass adoption. And this cycle with the elections and with the politics involved, we've never had, you know, we've never had any politicians talk about crypto, right? And so and we've never had ETFs. So this is sort of like a big, I would think it's a big deal. I think this is probably one of the last large cycles that's going to happen because of the ETFs.
You're right. The ETFs are a huge deal.
We're going to do well. I think we're going to be very surprised. It's going to catch us all off guard, you know. So,
in a good way.
Yeah.
What about? Go ahead, Gamet.
No, I agree. I think it's you know, at this point, if you're still here and you've survived, I mean, you're gonna, you know, make it to whatever the next hopefully step up is. So, you know, it's just a matter of just doing what you're doing.
Yeah, I agree. I think you just get your exit strategy in order because things happen quick, and believe me, at the top, nobody wants to sell. Nobody wants to sell. That's how it is.
And I think the ETF also have that features, right? So basically, a lot of people buying the ETF through their retirement fund, and some of them, like, it's mixed with the crypto fund. I know, like, Fidelity have some ETF which have like 1% of the crypto. So, like, most of people holding the crypto, they don't even know, right? So, so as the Fidelities, like, some of ETF have more size on the crypto, like, it will be continue growing. So
another thing is that DXY is heading lower. So you know, another catalyst. You know, you're having dollar down, and so that usually is good for risk assets as well. So you have a lot of things happening all at the same time. You know, you got the election, you got DXY down, you got interest rates likely to come down in September. It's hitting that trend line. Once it crosses that trend line, it's game over, I think, you know, and that's when things start really heating up.
Yeah, if we want to kind of go ahead and start diving into maybe a little bit of macro stuff then, and then we can kind of get into Aladdin. Aladdin centric. But you know, if you follow, like you talking about sort of the DXY there, you can see it's weakening here over at the far end of the chart, and you know, it's sort of reached a kind of a pretty important point here where it's meeting sort of like lower areas that we've seen really since interest rate hikes have started. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens once it hits this that 200 MA line here. If it'll bounce or if it'll keep going lower. And if it goes lower, I mean, you know, this is a weekly chart. You're showing really low on the RSI, but if it goes lower, That's a huge sign that we're in like a giant like bear market for the
Zoom out
dollar.
a little bit, K-Mets. Just take a look at when the last time it crossed below that green line, right? Look at that time right there.
It was like
When
July
was it?
20.
July
July
20.
20. Yeah.
So that's kind of where we're lining up, right? I mean, we're saying, if we have one of those dips right below, that's where and the peak, well, the lowest low is like in April and in November.
Yeah.
of
Well,
2020.
here's
what's the
big
green
chart.
line again? It's like a moving average.
Yeah, it's a moving average,
Moving
but
average.
this is the big chart here. Actually, let me go to the yearly. This is the big chart here that basically shows you the Captain Rational. He loves this
Oh
one.
yeah,
Man.
this is what Noah's
Noah
seen.
loves this, and
Yeah.
but basically, if you look at it, like for the last 40 years, it's on a downtrend.
Right.
The DXY and this right here, these high, shooting star like candles here. If this year closes out down, that'll basically be confirmation that like it's headed a lot lower. I mean, and then that's just bullish for risk assets, so
Probably for the next 10 years.
yeah.
Not even like, I mean, look at when we had the first shooting star in 2022? No, sorry, 2002 looked like.
Yeah, this
right?
is like 2001, 2002. That's
Right.
kind of
So
like
you had a bull market all the way to the 2008 crisis.
Yeah.
And that's when things bottomed.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is really starting to look like a very big macro setup.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just cycle, right? And then you can look over here at the side here. All the bonds are just red. And then you have like a lot of like uninversions of like 3-year, 10-year, 2-year, 30-year. These charts. They're kind of crazy to look at, but as you're starting to see the long tail of the bond market start to like come up, rise back up, and that's a sign like that's actually more important than Fed rate cuts is the long end actually like coming back up. And then you'll see it, kind of like as it's starting to dip back down, people are starting to buy now. And like this round over here, it's probably better if you see it on a monthly, but you can see it start to like capitulate here. There's a bear. It's going to start to roll back over. These are huge. Like the 30-year, basically this means that mortgage rates are going to come down. It directly impacts mortgage rates. It means that homes will be able to be easier to buy. It's all tied together, in the United States. And so, it just happens. You just have to be patient. It's hard to be patient in the short term. But, if you just sit on your hands, hopefully
well, we've been doing it for 3 years. I think we can wait another 6 to 8 months.
Oh, I hope so, right?
Start feeling the difference. At least another 6 months to start feeling improvements, even if it's not necessarily the top. So I think we're close. We're definitely closer than when we started. So,
yeah,
it's not another 4 years from now. It's another 6 months to a year.
Well, I hope so. Yeah, that'd be fantastic. And speaking of like bullish things to wait for, we've got some fun FX stuff coming up here in the very near future. The Protocol FX 2.0, where
the
we'll
alpha begins, folks. You can start recording.
Well, I mean, it's funny when you watch these things sort of like come together and kind of like see sort of like the idea go to sort of development phase, writing the white paper and taking that into account. There's iterations in order to make sure that everything is very safe, operates autonomously and correctly, and with the level of safety that we want. And so it's always kind of like interesting to kind of be a part of that design process. But I think folks are really going to be excited about some of the features from Protocol FX, and we'll just talk about it at a very high level. But I mean, I think we've talked about like that the fixed leverage portion of sort of like the X tokens, and that's been something that a lot of folks have been desiring really since kind of inception of the protocol, of kind of like being a cool feature and just sort of like some of the unlocks that you get from having, at the very least, predictable leverage, right?
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
it's I think like because of the unique nature of FX, I mean, because you'll be able to like hold, tokens, and it does not have liquidatable leverage. It'll be interesting to see what gets built in and around sort of these concepts and how other protocols will approach it. I don't know, like I kind of like to get y'all's thoughts on sort of like the significance of having like fixed leverage, tokens for ETH and BTC or what have you.
I think it's a big deal. I mean, I think this is one of the really probably most novel, creative primitives that it's been developed for in all of DeFi. I mean, I don't know how they'll be used. I suspect there'll be plenty of ways to leverage up even further, on a fixed leverage token. So I think right now the idea is to go from 2 to 10x fixed leverage, starting on ETH mainnet. And I think it's really interesting to see how everything has evolved, because when we started, it was started as FX started with FETH, and then FXUSD, once it was pegged to the dollar, kind of opened up other channels, and now you have then you had the variable leverage tokens, and then I think ever since those launched, you always had the people asking if it could be done to create a fixed leverage token. And now with what they've been able to come up with, I think this is going to be a game changer. I really do believe that FX is going to be, dare I say it, like the next Aave or the next major protocol that's producing these types of primitives. So I mean, how they're going to be used, I mean, it remains to be seen, but it is very, very interesting. I don't want to get into too much of the mechanics, but obviously there's some magic going on behind the scenes to be able to create this leverage. And I think we'll probably get into more of that once we have the white paper out. But this is going to be a big deal. The amount of fees that we're going to be able to generate as a protocol is going to be really off the charts. I mean, we saw the volatility 2 or 3 weeks ago, and we were able to generate, I think, 32 or 33 ETH in 1 week, from just the trading back and forth. So because it's fixed leverage, and because it doesn't mean that there's no losses, there's no liquidations, but there still can be losses. So you're going to have people trading in and out of these tokens a lot more often. So it's going to generate more fees at a much higher clip, much quicker. So it'll be very big for the token, for FXN, for the fees generated to the token, and so I'm really excited to see. And I obviously maybe even a new user interface to kind of interact with these tokens. So I'm excited to see what comes out of this.
Definitely. Yeah, Tao, I'm curious. Tao, actually, I'm really curious to know sort of like your approach to like X tokens, what you've kind of like thought of them, if you've integrated them into your own sort of like strategies, and how having sort of like a fixed leverage token would kind of alter that or enhance it, or or just even like if it would open up possibilities that you hadn't considered before.
Yeah. I think the X will be open a lot of things for me. Like before, I was I'm not really good at timing the market, so I'm not really a good trader. So I think I want, like, in the long term, I know it will be going up, but in the short term, it's hard. Like, is that too low or is that too high? So that's kind of like a X token, give like a non-liquidation. It's really powerful too. And also, if the funding cost is limited, right? Like WBTC, you still pay the funding cost, but for the others, I really like it. And except that, I saw the X token, it gave you the opportunity, like for the people who worry about like a sudden market change. Like, okay, I believe the value, and I like to hold longer. So that's kind of like a special value bring to the crypto world. Before, I don't think there are easy way to do it. I look at the ETF for the ETH two time leverage. It's pretty expensive. they have in the stock market too. Like I think it's 2 times, and I calculate the funding cost. It's very expensive, so you cannot hold it for a long time, right? Then yeah, so we need some tool which is a very low cost to holding in a little longer times, right? Then you don't worry about, compared to the other CDP, you have to like worry about liquidation, right? The interest rates suddenly go up a lot, then the market is very competitive, so you have to like do a lot of things when the gas is very expensive, right? So
yeah, I wonder if this is going to affect like perp exchanges. You know, it's very popular right now. You know, you have a lot of them out there, GMX, and you know, how much of that business is going to carry over to X tokens is really a big question mark. And I think the answer is it could be a pretty big number.
You know, actually, Tao, you brought up like a really, really good point about like if you were to do like a 2x leverage ETF and the costs associated with that and how it's so expensive. I think this is where we start to get into like the killer reason for DeFi, right? I mean, that's like one of the big reasons for the euro dollar market is it's just you can get a lot more leverage outside of, you know, the United States banking system. You can take on a lot more risky, you know, yield opportunities outside the United States. And, you know, crypto is just, it's another version of that euro dollar market. And, but one of the advantages is that, you know, like swapping LPs on Curve, is much, it's orders of magnitude cheaper than utilizing a Forex market. Right. And, so this advantage of having these predictable, you know, leverage tokens, you know, for people that do want that exposure, like that 2x or 3x or whatever it is. And, you know, if, you know, it's undercutting TradFi is easy. there's nothing hard about that because they're the only game in town. And so with this, you know, being sort of a cost-effective strategy where you know you pay the minting cost and whatnot for even just our regular X tokens, it's a huge win over anything that you can get in TradFi. And I think that is where, I mean, that's ultimately right, the value add that this entire DeFi ecosystem adds to, you know, global finance, right? It's faster, it's cheaper, it's more transparent, it's decentralized, you know, it's all the good things you want out of your system. So yeah, I agree with you, Tao. That's an excellent point.
Yeah. And I also thinking the FX pair, if we do the permissionless, it will be a lot of things opening, right? So like they can supporting more type of the asset, not just the main asset. So the people can like, I was thinking the F side is more like a delta natural strategy, right? The other side will be the leverage one. But for example, you holding some of the asset, this is pretty liquid, but it's hard to borrow or lending based on that. So FX protocol is a perfect place, right? People want a low risk, then the other side want a high leverage. Like even the meme coin can do that. So yeah, right. So they have a lot of like a trading volume, and some of them even have like staking features. Yeah. So we are the marketplace, right?
Yeah, it'll be really cool one day when FX has the factory. And
yeah, exactly. That's at the beginning I was so excited about that. It's all the possibility, like either it's a Uniswap or Curves type of things, right?
Imagine having tokenized S&P 500 shares that you could put into FX protocol, where you could basically form a stable coin off of S&P 500 shares, or leverage version of it.
Yeah, exactly. Like QQQ, right? There, I buy some like a leverage QQQ. It's pretty expensive to holding a long time. So
yeah, I mean that's the beauty of FX, right? Is that it allows you to create all these different types of derivatives, and in a way that's composable, and you know, in a token, an ERC20 token that you can store on a Trezor, or hardware wallet. I mean, that's pretty unique.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What's the audience we should be approaching though? Like, how do we take on this challenge of actually drawing that capital and liquidity into FX, like making this kind of new derivatives, or however you can define them, being more often used? Because it's like something that in a way, it's a big challenge for us, I think, as the A team, as Aladdin in general.
I was actually having a conversation with somebody about that the other day about, what's gonna, has to happen for kind of like DeFi to kind of take off. And I think ultimately we just need more sophisticated users with a lot of money in this space. And we don't have that right now. It's very much PvP, me versus you, all the sort of like infighting, for existing TVL and all this sorts of jazz. But once a large amount of exogenous money comes into the space, I think that's where they'll be looking for the opportunities, and we just have to just keep talking about it and making it available. And I think and maybe CryptoVestor, you can kind of like correct me on this, I think like the longer a protocol has like the sticking power of just staying around and surviving, the better it is in terms of like sort of like getting into the mind space of everyone in DeFi. Like, MakerDAO, does anyone believe that MakerDAO is going to like, vaporize, next week? No, they have like a huge amount of protocol and liquidity. Same thing with Curve. They've just been around for 4 years and been through all these market cycles. You can say the same thing about Convex now at this point, or Frax. Or I mean, there's a host of them, right? That have been these DeFi sort of like OG Aave, that have been around for a while and are just kicking. They just run. They work, and it gets into the mind space, I think, of like these of people that like, what's DeFi, and these are like the first things that sort of come to your mind, like Uniswap, Aave, Curve, what have you, and just sticking around and surviving, I think, is like a huge part of that. Well, I mean, would you agree with that, CryptoVestor?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, the longer something is surviving, especially during these market conditions, people tend to gravitate towards it, just like Aave, Uniswap, all of these different protocols. But another thing too that I was gonna, mention is, we're talking about what's gonna be the catalyst. And honestly, it might be as simple as just lower rates, and if you remember, in the 2020 bull run, 2020 cycle, I mean, money was really, really cheap. Interest rates were so low that there was no yield in TradFi. So it really forced people, and yields on stable coins were really, really high on chain. So once you see that shift, then people will pour money back in because it just makes more sense. Why would they, stay in a treasury that's earning them 1 or 2% when they can make 15 or 20%? And now there's a lot more sustainable ways to earn yield in DeFi. I mean, you could argue back then it was kind of, all emissions based, and it was all like, it was fake. But now it's really, there's a lot of different places to earn real yield that's coming from the Ethereum network. And I think that maturity is going to translate. And so you're going to see a lot of money pouring in. So what you're talking about, when you have major firms looking to earn 10, 15%, that's a big deal when you got large sums of money. So I think you're going to see some of that, especially as the ETH ETFs start really get some traction. So we're not there yet, but we're getting there. I think we're going to start seeing that shift soon.
I think actually that as more and more people from the more financial and institutional sector are getting involved, and I think as time goes by, and they will see more and more of these protocols being just what they actually are, but they're not usually perceived this way yet. I think, especially not in general outside of the DeFi circles, they are code-based businesses, but they are mostly not really looked at like that. But with time, I kind of think that people will start seeing it, and then people will start investing it because it's a much more frictionless type of way of investing into businesses. These are much more
Right.
frictionless, much more frictionless businesses.
Yeah, and I agree. I think that you're going to see, you're going to see these institutions, right? They'll come in and they'll start buying Ethereum. They might get into the ETH ETF, but it doesn't just stop there. Once you get Ethereum and you're like, wait a minute, there's ways I can earn yield, and that's going to start, changing the mind, the way people think. And so I think that's a big
yeah, when you see businesses like FX, okay,
yeah,
if it really, like right now, when the revenue is at around like something, I don't know, 10 ETH, then yeah, people don't really notice it. But once
right.
revenue actually hopefully
Once it's 100
kicking
ETH,
in,
200 ETH,
yeah, man, this is like, and people are starting like to realize that, okay, this thing brings in money and revenue every week. It pays like a clock, and it's based off of a smart contract. This is a concept that I think, like for us, it's already like something that we're familiar with and into, but for at least I think 99 or 98% of the population, this sounds like science fiction,
Oh,
Yet,
it's
like
yeah.
still.
Yeah, it's interesting because I mean, what you just said, DeFi Advisor is going to apply to the entire Aladdin ecosystem, right? I mean, all the protocols make money, all of them, and that's what's
Yeah, that's the
amazing
point.
is they've all stuck around, they all make money, they all work, and safety and security has been like the highest priority for Aladdin, and so when the bull market comes around, I mean, you look at Concentrator, I mean. Its TVL's gone down, but it's still ticking and it's still putting out like the rate of return, that's been decent throughout the bull market, and so same thing with Clever as well. Its TVL's like skyrocketed, because of asymmetry building on top of it. So
the largest holder now of Convex, right?
that is correct, sir. That is
So,
correct. Yeah, Clever can throw its weight around if it wants.
yeah. I know. I remember you saying or predicting that would happen a couple months ago, and here we are. So yeah, it's only going to continue most likely. So
Yeah.
it's I do think that I also think there's going to be a stablecoin bull market. I think there's going to be a lot of interesting developments there. We've already seen it, but nothing has really taken off. We haven't had a Luna moment, and so there will be. We don't know which ones they're going to be. There's probably going to be several. I mean, we've got like literally 150 stablecoins out there. So it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it all unfolds, especially now that Apple has unveiled or will be unlocking the ability for third parties to use their pay by phone feature.
Yeah.
And that I think is going to be a huge unlock. I mean, you'll be able to use Venmo from your phone and pay with PYUSD if you want, and not even know you're using PYUSD. And I think that's always been sort of the biggest unlock that we've all really sort of been kind of like waiting for.
The PayFi, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. I totally agree. And I thought that's kind of the massive adoption will be. Like people don't have to notice that, right? You're using the crypto, but in the real life you are using. Then you put the money there, it's automatically earn the yield, right? That's a massive one you are getting. So that's kind of like once this kind of big company was onboarding the crypto, then that will be the opportunity coming. And did you guys try the Coinbase Smart Wallet? It's pretty smart. You don't have to remember all these kind of things, so it's easy for the new user to use it.
No, I haven't dived into it yet.
Tried it.
Yeah, you don't remember. You don't have to remember like a private key or all these kind of things. Like it's using the iCloud stuff, so it's kind of like a regular Web2 usage. Then using your Face ID, then you create a wallet, then you do whatever you want it. So it's easy, like go like buying a pizza or whatever. Like a Base was trying to promote these kind of things, right? So that's kind of things people will be easy. Otherwise, it takes so much steps to onboarding the people who is not crypto to using crypto, right?
Well, I tell you, I think I think sort of like account abstraction combined with that is going to be a huge unlock, because you will truly have programmable money, right?
Yeah.
Where you'll basically be able to have your stable coins sitting in a stability pool, and then if you need to pay for something, you basically scan it. It will
Saving account. Yeah.
pull it out automatically, throw it in there, and then the change goes right back in here. Whatever. It's just gonna be so cool.
Yeah, I think the one of direction on our team, we should be like simplify for the users, right? Just as simple as possible, right? Then yeah, we need to differentiate the risk based on the different asset, but we should have one core feature, core product will be easy for the people to use in the daily life. That would be the perfect. Yeah.
Completely agree, sir.
Yeah. I remember like for the Fidelity account, then you can choose different. I think that's one type of the ETF. I think it's I can't remember, but it gives you the yield, right? So that's kind of popular. So people can earn the yield when they holding the cash, right? Then in China, the most popular one, the Alipay, they used to have the one saving account. Like you just put the cash there, then you don't even notice, but it gives you the yield. So they don't have to compete. They are not like actively looking for the higher yield, but it just okay, this is a good yield, then I'm okay with that, and it's convenient.
Yeah, I can see, I can see a lot of different TradFi ways that that you could use. You could use FXUSD or any of the other FX stablecoins as payment methods for in real life. I think that's coming. Like we're starting to see that now with like the Apple Pay or the Open API for that. I mean, you're going to start seeing more and more of that. The stable coins become more mainstream. I think it's only a matter of time. I think that leads to my bull case for Curve, and why I think that if there's more trading and there's more interactions and more volume, then I think you're going to see different DeFi ecosystem. So yeah, I'm definitely bullish. I definitely think it's coming. It's just we got to get there. It's a matter of waiting, patience.
Yeah, I think that's part of like the sort of the game theory is like, if the United States kind of like drags their feet on it, then say somewhere in Europe, it becomes a feature, and
right.
or in Asia or something like that, and it just becomes, those people will be able to reap the benefits of it, and the one that doesn't falls further behind, and then so they have to catch up by even like taking on even more of the features involved, and so you kind of get into that sort of that gamesmanship of it, and so that's why I'm not too terribly worried about sort of like regulations and whatnot, because eventually everybody just wants to get on the winning horse.
Right.
And as it stands right now, like we've said earlier, like, I mean, DeFi is the winning horse. It's just a matter of everybody else sort of recognizing it and putting their money on it. So
yeah,
we'll see.
Yep.
We had a question here from Coin Impotus 33. What do you guys think about Curve's allocation proposal of CRV to Swiss stake? I know that it had been sent through. So are you guys kind of familiar with this situation?
Yeah.
You're familiar?
A little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think just to bring everybody up to speed, there's a proposal on the Curve forums for I believe it's 21 million CRV from the community fund to be allocated to pay for things like development, business development, audits, things of that nature. If I'm understanding it correctly, sort of like regular operations for the next year, and it's kind of a stopgap, I guess, until CRV USD revenues continue to keep going up, which they've been pretty great for Curve. And it looks like, based on sort of like what we've seen on the proposal, that there's been a lot of comments, and that there's going to be some, probably some massaging of it, which is, to be expected. It's a big deal. And so do I have any opinions on it? You got to pay for audits, man. I mean, it's kind of one of those deals, and just kind of like figuring out what to do. And so we'll kind of see sort of like what the modifications to the proposal are. But ultimately, Curve's been such a just a fantastic addition to this space, that you want to make sure that everybody's getting treated right, but at the same time also, like, that they're managing their funds correctly and making sure that they have long-term solutions in place. And I'm confident that they will do that. So
I understand that people need to get paid, and the audits need to get paid for. So obviously, something needs to be done. The only criticism I have is that I'd like it to be more transparent as far as like what it's going to be used for. If there would be some kind of breakdown in the proposal. But yeah, you're right. Like, they these things need to get paid. The developers need to be paid. I'd just like to know more or less like how it's going to be used, and that's really my only sticking point. But other than that, yeah, I think it's, they're planning for the next year, and I think Frax had a similar governance proposal recently too. Where they're trying to plan out and project for the next year as well. So, pretty normal, pretty standard. I assume it'll get passed, but I think it will get passed with some kind of modification, with a little more clarity as to like where the funds are going to get used.
It will not get to vote like something like that, like it is. I mean, they won't.
Probably not.
They won't put it up for a vote like in the exact way that it is. Yeah. And I think it's very natural that the community, the community is, I think, these are all for sure curve bulls. It's all about, it's exactly all about that. It's about how do we ensure that the protocol is sustainable, because it's like half of the amounts of the community funds, because a lot of the funds were used to compensate the Viper hack. Mm-hmm. You guys remember that?
Yeah.
So people just want to make sure that CRV is aligned enough like for the long run, and like you said, and I saw some buzz comments on it that people want more details. And I think it's also going to be much more I don't know, mature as a business and as a protocol, to not see stuff like it can't be that the lawyers don't allow the community to know.
That doesn't make any sense to me, honestly.
You know what I mean? Like
I would think the lawyers would want to have some transparency.
Yeah, it's not how we should be perceived and looked, as a community.
Yeah, I like that idea. I've always thought that, paying them through wrappers, like if they were to lock in CVX or into Stake DAO and then, take the fees.
Yeah,
that makes sense. The only problem with that, I think, is there's not enough. They would need like 4 or 5 times that amount to be able to get that monthly stream that they need at the current rates that they're earning for fees. I'm sure at some point that will happen, because it makes sense for them to lock it and earn the fees. It's basically them taking a cut of the fees by diluting a little bit, but it also at the same time locks token in, and that's probably a smart move too. I think they made a comment. I think Mitch made a comment about that. I think that's probably part of the plan, but I don't think they can do it all in one shot like that. It would be great if they could, but I don't think they can.
I believe all those tokens were to be vested over the course of a year linearly. Right. So, exactly. Yeah. I mean, we'll see. It obviously, it sounds like the community is very, active in terms of their feedback on it. And so it sounds like Curve's very receptive to it. And, hopefully we get to a situation where 6 months from now, we all just kind of look at it and just be like, oh, well, the market's gone up so much that, it's not that huge of a deal anymore. And, but it remains to be seen. Every DeFi protocol right now is having to get pretty lean and dig into the couch cushions and find ways to.
One thing we know for sure is that Clever is going to have its say, right?
Clever will have its say. You know it, buddy. Yeah, I mean, that is, golly, the little protocol that could, man. It just keeps accumulating.
All that voting power. All that voting power.
Yeah, it is. And hey, the VE Clever, I mean, it's paying out 20% APR right now. I mean, that's just about equivalent to what FX is. So I mean, it's pretty good, man. So
yeah, that's true. It's not bad. That's definitely
Guys,
a good place.
As long as I have you experts on here, I will use it to ask this question. Like, do you guys like vote a lot with your locked VE Clev? I imagine that all of you hold it. Like, what do you mostly do, and like, how do you leverage it beyond just like getting what's ever earned from like the locks that earn CVX constantly?
Well, I mean, obviously, I'm participating in just about every governance forum proposal that comes across.
So am I. So
for every single one, like I'm voting on all of them, and you know, and that's important too. I mean, like if you have this amount of governance power, you should be exercising it, right? And to be able to, you know, make people aware of Clever because it comes up. You know, in we're the top thing, you know, posted for every snapshot on Convex pretty much. And then, you know, so, you know, we'll have folks that reach out to us regularly asking for votes on stuff. And so, you know, you know, there may very well be a time where, you know, in order to get a gauge vote, you'll have to wind up bribing. I don't know. I mean, you know, we'll see if the demand is
to bribe you.
Yeah, and so, you know, it just remains to be seen. I mean, we have this tendency in DeFi to financialize everything. So it would not surprise me if at some
DeFi is definitely efficient that way.
Yeah. You know, it's transparent corruption all the way through. So
and the truth is, I think Curve governance is really one of the most active governance in all of DeFi. So there's a lot of participation. I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, you're earning your CVX like you're talking about, DeFi advisor. And I mean with that, you know, there's, you know, all sorts of things you can do with the fees that you collect from that. But
yeah, for sure. I mean, in addition to that, like, do you guys vote in like other places that you get something like bribe? Like, is there such a thing already that I'm
like over the counter bribes?
Yeah, like for example, listen, I just recently found out that I can vote with my VFXN on Paladin. Like I didn't like.
Oh, that's just a gauge vote, yeah.
And I realized that I'm getting some additional pay now because I've started like voting there. And I'm like, oh my God, how did I not do it? Like, what was I doing? And okay, like I don't have a huge FXN position anyway, but still, like, come on, you know, when you start realizing that someone's paying you to press some buttons, it's always, you know.
It's interesting, right? How you can hold that kind of voting power and someone willing to pay you for it.
Yeah, so I was curious if you guys are doing similar stuff with the VE Clev already, and like, and if so, like what? And if not, like, is it coming?
Yeah,
you're yet, but I think that will eventually happen. I think.
You're just talking about straight gauge votes, DeFi advisor, and there's only one gauge on Clever, and that's for the ABC CVX position. But you know, like I said, it could very well change in the future. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think Clever is going to play an important role in governance, you know, down the road. And I think, you know, people who want certain pools and gauges, they're either going to have Clever and locked, or they're going to have to start bribing to get certain things done in the future. And that's not happening now because we're in sort of like a DeFi lull. But when that shifts, I think that will, you know, Clever and CVX and all of the Curve governance will play a major role in that.
Yeah, and you know, just FYI, like CVX is just one token. I mean, you know, there could be other strategies with Clever involved in the future as well. So I mean, it's a protocol that's basically designed to just boost the yield of anything, or, you know, allow you to borrow against future yields. So I mean, it's sky's the limit, really. It's just sort of a matter of, you know, when the market's ready, we'll pounce on it. So
I agree.
Well, gentlemen,
so how far away are we? Just to wrap it up, Kemetz.
Yeah.
How far away do you guys think that we are from FX 2.0?
I'm told about a month. So September is what I'm told. So Pretty close.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably about right. I mean, it's you as I said earlier, kind of like when you go through the design process, there's iterations. You learn new things and nuances about the protocol, and of course, these are not minor changes. They're going to be pretty good size modifications and additions to the protocol, but it'll function. 1.0 will still function the same way it always has, but 2.0 is going to be a huge launching. I mean, it should get us to, in my opinion, it's the global step for adoption, really.
Yeah, to me, it's the doors. Like, this is really going to break open the door. This is the breakout moment for FX, from my perspective. Like, I don't think people realize how big that can be. Right now, just to give you like some perspective, like right now, the leverage that we see quoted on the site is like anywhere between 1.7 all the way up to like 2, and that's because that's kind of where they settle. That's where people are willing to pay for an X token for that amount of leverage, but they always settle in that variable side of the leverage. So when you have fixed leverage and you can guarantee a certain amount of leverage consistently, then I imagine there's going to be a lot more buyers. And so that's going to shoot TVL up, and that's going to shoot fees up, and that's going to shoot FXUSD circulating supply up. So it's going to be one of the largest stable coins out there because of the way the leverage system works. So you're going to see fireworks happening in the next couple of weeks when this launches, I think.
There you go. He's promised fireworks, folks.
Yep.
It's going to be a show. All right.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, we've hit an hour here, and I know I've got the rest of my day ahead of me. Hoo boy, and it is just going to be a hot one. But hopefully, everybody, like I say, we've got more stuff coming down the pipe. So keep your eyes and ears open, and stick around the Discord channel for all the good alpha that gets coming out here in the near future. And so, like CryptoVestor says, not too long to go, for both FX 2.0 and also the DeFi bull market. So together we can all make it, I think.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Thank you for having me on here, guys. Appreciate it. It was a pleasure.
Thanks for coming. Thank
you
all.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Thanks, Tao. Take care.
Yeah, great to have you on, Tao.
Yep, absolutely, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.